Can the Lazar story be scientifically debunked? That is, if we wanted to debunk the science supporting the three key claims made by Bob Lazar, presented in episode 14 and 15 on this channel, what would we need to do? Well, that's actually a big ask, but before we tackle it, we need to define facts and myths. Firstly, we shall define a fact as any unit of information which you can verify personally, that is, you can confirm for yourself that the fact under consideration is true. You do not need to turn to another resource to tell you something is true, you fly solo. That is, you're a grown-up and you no longer sit at the children's table. Remember, boys hunt in packs, men hunt alone. You're a hunter. So then, what's a myth? Well, we define the myth as any so-called fact, which you cannot personally verify. A myth is provided to you from an alternative resource, whom does the thinking for you. In doing so, you potentially empower the alternative resource to influence you. The easy path is to trust that an alternative resource has done the hard yards for you. Humans tend to have a trusting nature, because most of what surrounds us in the world actually isn't a priority for us, personally. Only when we risk suffering personal consequences, typically financial, do we invest the effort into a deeper understanding of a situation. Politicians, as we know, love this about us. They love the fact that we don't really care enough to do our homework. And sadly, we have encountered significant disinformation by governments and mass media in recent times. Some of the species of myths we need to take extra care to avoid are testimony and opinion. Unfortunately, people cannot be trusted. It's not unreasonable to assume that some people might harbor secret agendas. Video content is also extremely unreliable. Video can be easily fabricated or doctored, seeing as no longer believing. All forms of documentation, government or otherwise, cannot be trusted. It's too easy to fabricate and disseminate information via documentation. We see it all the time in the current geopolitical climate. The mass media have largely become mouthpieces for governments nowadays, so we cannot trust that either. The internet is an obvious fire of disinformation. Extreme care should be employed when utilizing this resource. Lastly, trusted resources and people of reputation are particularly dangerous. When trusting any resource or reputation, you are effectively letting someone else drive the boat. So, let's now investigate what one would need to do in order to scientifically debunk the three key Lazar claims presented in episode 14 and 15. The first step in scientifically debunking Lazar's claims is to debunk the experimentally verified evidence presented in episode 14, as appears on screen. Episode 14 established the Storti equation as being the key to the validation of Lazar's claims. Let's begin by moving around the screen. In the top left-hand corner, we see that Storti predicted a value of Hubble constant in 2008, which was experimentally confirmed by the Planck Satellite, and published by the Particle Data Group in 2013. The Storti prediction was published by the Australian Institute of Physics, 5 years in advance of experimental confirmation. In 2008, the Particle Data Group value was substantially higher than their 2013 value. In fact, the significant difference between these results initiated the now famous and so-called Hubble tension problem. Therefore, the very first step required to debunk Lazar's claim scientifically would be to somehow prove that Storti didn't predict the power spectrum Hubble constant 5 years prior to experimental confirmation. The Storti prediction is a matter of historical record, and can very easily be verified by anyone interested in investigating the matter. This prediction provides the first piece of evidence, establishing the validity and credibility of the Storti equation. Moving clockwise around the screen, we see that the Storti equation also produces numerous experimentally verified parameters from particle physics to cosmology, including both of the forms of Hubble constant required to resolve the Hubble tension problem. If viewers watch all the episodes contained on this channel, they will in fact find even more experimentally verified results, not appearing on screen due to a lack of available presentation area on this slide. We suggest that viewers pause the video to study the information provided. In this illustration, we see that our primary equation, which was derived in episode 1 to episode 5, yields astonishing experimentally verified results. we have confirmed that a single equation can be utilized to describe reality from the quantum scale to the cosmological scale, and everything in between. Everything on screen is significant and jumps substantially ahead of the standard models of particle physics and cosmology. In order to debunk the scientific validity of Lazar's claims, viewers will need to: Number 1. Prove that Storti's 2008 prediction for the Hubble constant, which was published by the Australian Institute of Physics, 5 years in advance of the particle data group experimental evidence published in 2013, was somehow wrong. Number 2. Prove that the experimentally verified proton root mean square charge radius, and the experimentally verified neutron mean square charge radius, as calculated by Storti, are somehow wrong. Number 3. Prove that both forms of experimentally verified Hubble constant, calculated by a single equation as derived by Storti, does not relieve the Hubble tension, and are somehow wrong. And number 4. Prove that the experimentally verified cosmic microwave background radiation temperature, as calculated by Storti, is somehow wrong.